Recently, Flight AA167 from New York to Tokyo was forced to turn back after more than 12 hours in the air due to a sudden loss of control in the pressurization system, causing a drop in cabin pressure at an altitude of 10,000 meters. However, this was not an isolated incident. Upon deeper inspection, engineers discovered a series of extremely serious technical faults that could cause the plane to crash at any moment. Even more shocking, all of these issues originated from the Boeing factory, the very facility producing the 787s delivered to American Airlines. So why were such critical errors only just uncovered now? Could this be just the beginning of a deadly sequence of failures within American Airlines' 787 fleet? Don't look away. This video will reveal everything. The American Airlines 787 was once considered a symbol of modern aviation, quiet, fuel-efficient, and reliable. For many years, it served as the backbone of the airline's longest international routes. But then a series of malfunctions began to emerge, gradually revealing deadly cracks in what was once a proud flagship. The horrifying technical faults on American Airlines 787, a ticking time bomb in the sky. In October 2023, a Boeing 787-8 of American Airlines was flying from Santiago, Chile to Miami. The weather was good, and the plane was cruising steadily at nearly 12,000 meters. Everything appeared normal until an unusual sign emerged in the cabin. Some passengers began experiencing headaches, ear pressure, and then dry heaving. Not long after, oxygen masks dropped throughout the cabin. The aircraft had to descend rapidly. The crew issued an emergency alert and instructed passengers to fasten their seat belts. After that, the plane continued flying for about 45 more minutes before making an emergency landing. The incident was summarized in the report: sudden decompression, no injuries. However, during the post-flight technical inspection, engineers discovered that the cabin pressure regulation valve had been installed incorrectly. Instead of responding to pressure loss by injecting air into the cabin, the valve remained inactive, allowing pressure to drop without any correction. More seriously, the entire pressure sensor system had been temporarily disabled during a previous maintenance session and was not reactivated. This meant the pilots were completely unaware of the decompression until the oxygen masks deployed automatically. According to the internal report, the root cause was that the maintenance team had mistakenly used the technical manual for the Boeing 777, a plane with completely different wiring and valve systems from the 787. What's alarming is that both manuals share several similar sections, and there was no clear warning in the guidance system to prevent such confusion. But the story did not end there. In November 2024, a long-haul American Airlines flight from Madrid landed at Miami International Airport. Everything went as usual until the captain filed a technical report noting that throughout the flight, the fuselage exhibited continuous mild vibrations, as if something underneath was malfunctioning. The engineering team then inspected the lower fuselage at the forward cargo door area and found that the door had not closed completely. Part of the door's edge was misaligned. It didn't pop open, but it also didn't fully seal with the design structure. At cruising speed near 900 km/h, this gap created a high-pressure airflow sweeping across the underside of the aircraft, causing the fuselage to twist slightly in a periodic pattern. As a result, the midsection and nose of the plane vibrated unevenly for more than 8 hours in flight. Vibration sensors recorded a deviation of nearly 0.5 degrees, enough to affect the composite materials used for the aircraft skin. The key characteristic of composite is that it is completely different from aluminum. Instead of warping or denting the surface, this material tends to crack from within and is extremely difficult to detect. Repeated vibration, even if small but prolonged, can cause microcracks to form silently and spread with each flight. At a certain point, part of the fuselage may fracture while still airborne. A more shocking discovery followed misplacement of hydraulic oil lines. a silent fire risk inside the mechanical bay. An internal report from early 2025 drew special attention from technical experts. On several Boeing 787-9 aircraft operated by American Airlines, the hydraulic oil system, which should have been placed far from heat sources, was installed too close to the hot air ducts in the mechanical bay. What's notable is that this was not an on-site installation error, but a flaw from the original technical diagram. That means technicians installed the system according to the instructions, but the instructions themselves were incorrect. Under extended flight conditions with high pressure, the oil lines could expand slightly and touch the outer surface of adjacent hot air ducts. The result was a micro leak, with oil escaping in amounts as small as a few milliliters per year, not enough to be visible or reduce system pressure. However, if oil accumulates in a confined space and meets high temperatures, it can become a slow-burning fuse, with no smoke, no warning, but capable of igniting inside a compartment filled with wires, air ducts, and hydraulic controls. More seriously, this area had no sensors for leak detection or temperature control. If a fire were to occur in less than 60 seconds, the entire midsection could turn into a sealed combustion chamber, located directly beneath the passenger cabin. After detecting the issue, engineers traced it back to the original design and found that the flawed diagram had existed since the very first batches delivered by Boeing to American Airlines, and it had never been corrected. But that was still not the end of the discoveries. The next issue was even more concerning: cockpit windows fogging up suddenly, caused by a malfunction in the cooling system's mode switch. In April 2025, on a flight from Dallas to Tokyo, operated by a Boeing 787-9, the pilots noticed the cockpit windshield gradually becoming blurred despite ideal weather conditions outside. The phenomenon did not come from the exterior, but from a thin white layer of fog forming inside the window, spreading upward from the lower edge to eye level. The crew inspected the cockpit's air conditioning system and discovered that the cooling unit had automatically switched to emergency mode, even though the cabin showed no abnormal signs. In this mode, temperature drops rapidly, the cold air fan runs at full capacity, and fresh air valves partially close to maintain cabin pressure. When this state persists for too long, humidity cannot escape and condenses into internal fog on the windshield. This caused the pilots to lose visibility mid-flight, even though the aircraft was cruising steadily at high altitude. The issue lasted only a few minutes, and after the crew rebooted the system, the windshield cleared up. However, the fact that the air conditioning switched to emergency mode without any cabin alerts prompted a full technical investigation. The inspection results revealed that the cockpit climate control circuit board was not equipped with an electromagnetic interference EMI filter. In an environment filled with signals like radar satellites and navigation systems, this board can become susceptible to interference, misinterpret data, and automatically issue inappropriate commands. Normally, for a modern aircraft like the 787, such issues should be eliminated at the hardware design stage. But when AA cross-checked 3 other aircraft of the same model, they found that all 3 used the same type of circuit board, and none of them had an integrated EMI filter module. What happens in the sky is only the surface. The true root lies much deeper, starting from where the very first Dreamliners were built. Boeing, the origin of the Dreamliner nightmare, at American Airlines. Everett, the factory that was once Boeing's pride, where the majority of American Airlines' 787 fleet was produced, has now become the center of some of the most controversial technical records in modern aviation. An internal report from the FAA once found many Dreamliners rolled out from here carried micro cracks at the rear fuselage joint, the area that bears the greatest torsional load when flying through turbulence. These cracks were so subtle that even endoscopic radar could miss them unless rescanned manually. But more alarming is the way these planes were approved. A whistleblower revealed that there were control board clusters for the compartment doors, and pressure valves that had never undergone final inspection yet were still given the green light with a shortened directive, clear to fly. Urgent. Approval authority always rested in Boeing's hands. And they were also the only party authorized to shorten inspection procedures, especially when delivery schedules were tightened after the pandemic. However, the most frightening issue didn't lie in the cracks, but in the technical manual that seemed to have been checked down to every screw. A strange incident occurred on a flight from Dallas to Tokyo in April 2025. The cockpit windshield gradually turned white, spreading upward from the bottom edge to eye level, even though the sky outside was crystal clear. The crew discovered that the cooling system had automatically switched to emergency mode without any cabin warning. As the temperature dropped rapidly and the air valves partially closed, humidity got trapped and formed condensation inside the glass layers, causing the pilots to lose visibility mid-flight. Upon closer inspection, the technical team found the circuit board controlling the climate system was not equipped with an electromagnetic interference EMI filter, and worse, it had never undergone any EMI test before being installed on a commercial aircraft. In an environment full of signals like radar, satellite, and GPS, this circuit board could misinterpret data and issue improper commands, triggering emergency cooling, closing air valves, or disabling pressure balance. A system originally designed to respond to fire or depressurization now acted autonomously even when no anomaly was present. Boeing did not provide any EMI test record in the technical documentation. No justification, no replacement recommendation, and no warning to operating airlines. Everything continued to be installed and put into service. Even when American Airlines approved a plan to replace all outdated cabin sensors and climate boards in early 2025, Boeing unexpectedly requested a complete suspension, citing the reason to avoid impacting the delivery schedule of new aircraft. Since then, everything fell into silence. No reports, no directives, no further actions. However, the final mistake came from what seemed the safest, the maintenance checklist. A leaked internal report revealed at least 3 cases where maintenance teams used Boeing 777 technical documentation to work on the 787's cabin system, simply because the 2 aircraft models had software interfaces and diagrams that were up to 90% similar. That very similarity created an illusion of accuracy. The result was pressure valves installed in reverse sensors, not retested, and the entire system put back into service after a few software resets, with no one realizing the mistake until cabin depressurization occurred on 3 consecutive flights. A single captain recorded a brief warning line, detected faint burning smell. Restarted air conditioning system, took no further action. The problem is, all those actions were correct on paper, because the checklist was taken directly from Boeing's official documentation, where there was no clear warning to distinguish the risks between the 2 aircraft models. Until the consequences of repeated negligence began to surface clearly. April 2025. A Boeing 787 from American Airlines long-haul fleet was forced to divert mid-flight, with less than an hour before entering Japanese airspace. The aircraft turned back after over 12 continuous hours of flight, carrying more than 200 passengers on the JFK-Tokyo route. The official reason given, an unidentified technical issue. The plane did not return to its point of origin. It landed in Dallas, over 2,000 kilometers off its intended course. Over 200 passengers disembarked in the middle of the night, confused and unaware of what had just occurred. American Airlines arranged overnight hotel stays and meal vouchers. But no further technical explanation was provided. Passengers had to wait for a replacement flight the next day, without knowing what caused the diversion, which part failed, or whether it might happen again on the next aircraft. The media called it the Nightmare 787. Not because an accident occurred, but because from the moment the issue began until the aircraft landed, everything remained silent with no clear explanation offered. But in the end, the question that kept people awake was not, why did the plane malfunction, but rather, how many other aircraft are already carrying the same hidden flaws, just waiting their turn? American Airlines currently operates about 37 Boeing 787s, including both 8 and 9 variants. If just 20% of them, about 7 or 8 aircraft, carry one or more of the same recorded faults, then this is no longer hypothetical. It is an unacknowledged statistic, and the issue doesn't stop with AA. United Airlines, LATAM, Qatar Airways. Several other carriers also received planes from the same assembly line, the same component suppliers, the same technical schematics designed by Boeing. No one has reported any faults, but no one has confirmed their fleets are immune either. Worse, according to an industry source, since mid-2024, many Dreamliners have been delivered with shortened technical checklists intended to accelerate deliveries after the pandemic. That means it is entirely possible that issues like inactive pressure sensors, reversed valve installation, or untested EMI boards were never caught, simply because no one checked from the start. And if problems are only discovered after a cabin loses pressure, cockpit windows fog up, or the fuselage begins vibrating abnormally, then maybe the thing we really need to fix isn't just the aircraft, but the way we trusted it was ever ready to fly. What's happening with American Airlines' 787 fleet is no longer about a few aircraft. It is the accumulation of a series of technical failures that seemed unrelated. And behind each of those failures, one name continues to appear: Boeing. No one has come forward to claim that the manufacturer intentionally ignored the risks, but perhaps our faith in coincidence ends here. When checklists are confused between two aircraft models, when a sensor patch is delayed simply to meet a delivery schedule, and when a cabin circuit board makes it through production without ever being EMI tested, then the problem is no longer with a part, a department, or a single airplane. It lies within a system that allowed all of it to be considered acceptable. If you found this video valuable, don't forget to like and subscribe so you won't miss future updates. Feel free to share your thoughts in the comments section below. Thank you for watching. And remember, everything we shared in this video is based on research and perspectives from various sources. We encourage you to explore more information for a broader, more objective view.